So guys, now let's consider a discussion on the document object model. Now, which is again part of the BOM that we already seen it. And now DOM stands for document object model. And what is this? It is nothing but a JavaScript representation of the web page. Okay, that is what we saw. This JavaScript representation, what is this? This is nothing but a JavaScript object. Okay, document is nothing but a JavaScript object where you are representing your entire web page, whatever the web page that you have opened currently. That web page itself, now currently I have opened the local host index.html. That is the URL that it is pointing to. All right. And this particular URL is a HTML file which contains all these properties. Okay, these are the properties that are part of your DOM, and that is a JavaScript representation of a web page. Just remember this part. It is a JavaScript representation of a web page. Now, with this document object model, what can be done? What is that we are trying to achieve? What it provides? Okay, and using the JavaScript, how we can use this for as a developer. So just understand that this document object model can change the HTML elements in the page. Okay, you can modify, you can change the HTML element. Like for example, if I go ahead and dock it on the right side. All right. So now this is the web page that we have. Okay, this is the web page. I'll close this. Now, so I'll go here and add a h1 tag, demo DOM. Okay, so something like that. And I have come here, and then what I'm going to see, I'm just going to see the directory of this. There is a DOM here. Now inside this, there is a property that I can talk about, which is, let's say, here. So what is this property? This is the property that is there, which is a HTML tag. Okay, I'll go to the HTML tag, and for that there is some property inside HTML tag that is known as inner HTML. If I here, if you see, there is something called as inner text, right? Inner text is what? It is talking about demo DOM. Okay, this is coming from where? This value. I can go ahead and modify this inner text, and that inner text property is going to update this DOM without even changing the HTML file. I can do that using the DOM properties, and that is what the usage of this DOM is. So we have seen this here. One of the changes that you can do is you can modify the element, you can modify the HTML attributes, you can also change the CSS styling as well. Okay, you can change the CSS styling, which means your appearance of the web page can be changed using the DOM, and you can remove the existing HTML element and attributes. So which means you can delete or hide the HTML elements and attributes, and you can add new elements and attributes. Okay, so newly you can create a certain sections of the web page through the DOM, injecting through the DOM. All right, and you can react to the existing HTML based on the events in the page. Like events, again, what are these events? We'll see that. Like now, just consider click as an event. So whenever I click a button, I want to do certain changes in my HTML page. That can be done, okay, using the DOM. And you can create a new HTML events itself using this DOM model. All right, all this we will going to see, and we'll see that with some examples as well. So here is the summary. Just understand this statement thoroughly. What it means is document object model, or the DOM, is an interface that treats an HTML or XML. Again, XML is extended markup language, which is again contains nodes. All right, but for us, let's consider HTML itself now. It's an interface that treats an HTML document as a tree structure. Okay, so I'll show that with an example how this can be considered as a tree structure, wherein each node is an object representing the part of the document. All right. So what is the takeaway here? A document object model can be treated like a tree structure, and that tree structure contains nodes, and nodes, each node can be treated as an object, okay, which is part of the document. Let's consider this simple HTML page. So what does this HTML page contains? A body tag, which is open and close body tag. Within the body tag, there is a H1, which is a heading tag, which says shopping list. This is the enclosed tag content. And then there is an unordered list, open and close. And unordered list contains two list items. One is tea, another is milk. All right. Just compare this HTML code with a tree structure, because that is what DOM is. Okay, it is a tree structure. Now consider this as a tree. The tree has a root, it has got it has got the leaves. Okay, it has branches and then it has got the leaves. Ultimately the root and the leaves becomes part of your tree structure. Now compare this to your HTML code. Okay, how is that? Suppose this is the root and at the bottom, and then these are the leaves. And DOM represents a document with a logical tree. What is this document? Document is your JavaScript representation of a HTML file, right? So now we are going to see how this tree structure is related, okay, to the DOM. Now, root is called a document and the leaves are called the individual node objects. Like if you observe this, the document is at the root. Okay, this is the root, document is the root, and then you have a body tag. Okay, there is a certain hierarchy. By body tag contains h1 and ul tag, and again ul tag will contain list items. In the same way, the body contains h1 tag and ul tag, and the ul tag in terms contains the li and li tags, which is nothing but two li tags. So in this way, every HTML document can be thought of as a logical tree which represents the document. And that means every HTML element is a node object, is a node object. We'll see that how that can be treated as a node object in DOM. Whenever we say document dot, you select certain element and then that element will be a node object. How is that? We'll see that. Now, let's let's go ahead and understand one example. Let's say we'll consider certain examples here. Here, let me say as a DOM, and let's talk about here what it contains. Let's say I have h1 tag, simple h1 tag inside the script tag. All right, h1 tag. Let's say demo DOM and a simple paragraph which contains a lorem text of 10 words. All right. Let me remove the script tag first to show you. All right. Now, this is what the HTML element is looking like. All right. Now, let me go to the console and let's say console.document.dir, and I'm hitting this index.html file. Let's say querySelector is another method that is part of the document object. Okay, that is also going to give me what? That is also going to return me a query, which is that is also going to return me what? HTML element that is selected. Now with this selection, I can go ahead and do certain modifications. Like I want to change the inner HTML of this query selector. What I can go ahead and do, I can assign that modify the h1 using DOM. So this is what I did, and if I hit enter, now if I go to the web page, you have seen this particular h1 tag has been modified. Again, I don't want to rush you through this part, because first we'll understand the DOM selection and then we are going to enter into the DOM modification. Okay, but just to give you the demonstration that you can select the DOM and you can modify the DOM. All right, now in this case we have selected the DOM and you can go ahead and modify the DOM as well. All right, now with this understanding, let's enter into what is known as DOM selection. So what it means is you can select the nodes which are part of your DOM document object model, and then you can act upon those selected elements using certain properties. All right, now which is DOM manipulation that you can do. The first, let's see what are the different ways that you can select an element in a DOM. First property, first method is the get element by ID. We already seen get element by tag name. You can also select the element by a class name as well. Let's take them one by one. All right. Let's clear this out and go to this. And here I want to have this one class name is equal to para. Okay. And then I'm going to add another para with a lorem text of 10 words. And for this, I'm going to give a ID, okay, ID I'll give. ID is equal to para1. All right. These are the two things that I have added additionally to whatever the output that I'm getting. So this is what the output is going to look on my web page. All right. So now let's concentrate on these three methods now, which is part of the DOM selection. The first one is get element by ID. The second one is get element by tag name and get element by class name. So let's go ahead and see what these will return. So the first one I'm going to talk about is this document. What does the document contains now? This contains the same index.html file which has opened now. And now what I'm going to say, document dot get element by ID. And here inside the parenthesis, I'm going to pass the parameters. Okay, that parameter is a ID name. So ID name is, let's say I want to select this ID which is para1. All right, so I want to select the paragraph. So this is the para name that is going to be selected. So what is this get element by ID? Get element by ID is again HTML related document object model. What you have, the document object model in turn has got this particular method, and this method, what you call it as a get element by ID. If I enter it, so what is this going to return me? This is going to return me the entire HTML tag which is represented by this ID, which means this entire HTML tag can be retrieved using the get element by ID method. Now, using this, I can go ahead and modify. But first is, this is the selection. Okay, like the CSS, we have the selectors, right? CSS selector, simple selector, again combinator selectors and all that. Here this is a selector of the DOM element using the element ID. Okay, that is what get element by ID will do. All right, now then next there is also a tag name that we have already seen how to get the get element by tag name. So what you can say, document dot get element by tag name. You can go ahead and give the tag name. Tag name is nothing but your element name, whatever the element is. Let's say I want to talk about paragraphs. Okay, let's say para is an element. So what this element or the method will return, it will return the HTML collection. HTML collection is nothing but an array. Okay, an array that contains what? It contains now para, which is the first one, and then there is the at the 0th position there is something called as p dot para. Okay, and then there is at a position 2 there is again para1, which is two paras that have been part of the collection now, because I have two paras which represents the tag para. So this and this, the two elements are selected. So those elements are put in a what? This are put in a array format, which is nothing but an HTML collection, we call it as. Okay, this is pure with a length of 2 because there are two elements that are there. This is how you get element by tag name. And the next, there is also a class name. By the class name, you can go ahead and select. All right. Now, let's say I can, in this example, I have given the class name for a first para, which is a para. Okay. I have given the class name. Let's go ahead and use that. Document dot get element by class name. And the class name that I'm going to give is a para. Okay. Now, this is also going to return me a HTML collection with a single element, which is nothing but a para. Okay, only length of the HTML collection is one, which is nothing but only this is going to be returned. And once I get this, and again, there is a, once you select it, then you can also go ahead and modify and manipulate that. We'll see that one by one. Now, you understood how to get or select the elements of the DOM using how to select the elements of a HTML using the DOM methods. Okay, three of them. Now, there is another way to do that is, it is a more newer version, guys. Okay, earlier, these were the three ones that were the older versions of doing the same selecting. And now query selector is very dominantly used now. Okay, because this is a new way to introduce. With a single query selector, you can, with a single method, you can do all the three what is done here. Okay, you can do by id, by tag name, by class name, all by using a simple query selector method. And what it does, this will return a single element instead of a collection. If there are more than one tags that are p tags are available, it will select the very first, only the single element is returned by the query selector. Now you see, document.querySelector, you give the element id, it will return that particular HTML element. And query selector, you can say, give the id with the hash symbol here, it will select the query selector by id. Okay, then there is a query selector by the class name. So the same thing can be done here as well. Let me clear that. Let's say document dot query selector. Okay, and inside that, if I go ahead and give the h1 tag. Okay, so what is this? If you see, this is what I wanted. All right, if I go ahead and enter, it is going to return me the HTML h1 element. All right, this is a query selector method. And again, if I go ahead and if I want to select by a class name, so like the CSS, if you want to select by a class name, we give dot class name, right? This is the same convention. You need to give dot and the class name para, and that is going to return the HTML element. The entire para element will be selected. And the same is the case with the ID selector. So for the ID, you need a hash, right? That is what we used to do in CSS. It's the same thing here as well. Hash, then para1, the ID name. That's it. And that is going to return me that particular HTML element with the identity para1. Okay, all these, like get element by get element by id, get element by class name, get element by get element by tag name, all these can be combined into only a single method, which is a query selector. Okay, it combines everything. All right, this is the best way to use. Okay, this is what I personally prefer to use, which is a query selector. All right, now having said that, this is the 5 different ways that you can use. 4 different ways. Again, there is also something called as query selector all as well. Okay, so what it does is, as you know, query selector will return only one element, right? Query selector, okay, all, there is another method called query selector all. And if I give a para, this is going to return the node list, not the HTML collection. This is going to return the node list. This is also an array. It is a iterator. Okay, we call it as an iterator or iterable, which is again contains 2 elements of this node list, and they have a length of 2, which is the first para is with the class, and second para is with the identifier. Both are returned. All right, and if I and this is again a way that you can go ahead and utilize that. All right. Now, with that being said, now what can be done to this is, let's say I have this, and let's say I am going to say const para select is equal to, okay, this is what I have assigned. Whatever the para that have selected, I have assigned it to a variable called para select, which is now a node list type. If I go ahead and say para select, it is going to return me the node list, and this node list I can go ahead and give the this one index, and I can get the elements. At the 0 index it will return this one, at the index 2, at index 1 it is going to return the next element. Okay, so this is as if like you are acting upon an array, but even though in particularly it is a node list, which is an iterable, it is an indexed iterable. You can have a index associated with it. You can assign it to certain variable and then retrieve each element by indexing it. Okay, if there are more than, whenever you say query selector all, it will return more than one, or whatever how many there are, they are going to return, but that returned value will be of the node list type. So node list will, and the elements of the node list can be accessed through indexing. Okay, like the way what we did it here. All right, so this is about all about query selecting. All right,